Hello, I'm Brandon Christopher King, and I'm excited to welcome you to this series of videos where we'll explore a groundbreaking model of reality that I've developed called RLFlow. This model comes from my Rivers of Life theory, which offers a completely new perspective on the universe, one that views everything, from galaxies to atoms, as interconnected flows of energy and motion. In these videos, I'll be walking you through an overview of each chapter of my book, Flow Dynamics, where I dive deeper into how RLFlow reshapes our understanding of physics, motion, time, and even consciousness. These videos will give you a unique look at how we can rethink the fundamental forces shaping our reality. So sit back, relax, and join me as we venture through the dynamic world of RLFlow. I look forward to sharing this vision with you. What if I told you that everything you've ever learned about the universe, every rule, every law of physics, is just a partial glimpse of a bigger picture? What if, instead of a cosmos made of separate objects, particles, and forces, we lived in a universe that was more like a vast, endless river, one where everything, from galaxies to atoms to even time itself, was nothing more than patterns of flow? Today, I want to show you a new way of seeing reality, a way that doesn't just explain the mysteries of physics, it dissolves them. Welcome to RLFlow, where the universe isn't a machine, it's a living, dynamic current of energy and resonance. For centuries, we've been taught to think of the world in separate pieces. Newton saw a universe of objects being pushed and pulled by forces. Einstein gave us space-time, stretching and curving around mass. Quantum physics tossed in wave-particle duality, entanglement, and uncertainty, where particles don't even seem to know where they are until we measure them. It's no wonder physics can't seem to agree on a single, unified theory, because we've been breaking reality into disconnected chunks instead of looking at it as one interconnected whole. Now imagine a river. It's not made of separate objects. It's a continuous moving field. Some parts are calm, others have rapids and whirlpools. If you throw in a rock, ripples spread out, but the river doesn't stop flowing. It just adapts. That's how RLFlow sees the universe, not as separate things acting on each other, but as an infinite, ever-moving flow field, where every interaction is just a shift in the flow. What we call matter, it's just stable vortices in the flow. What we call forces, they're interactions between flows. What we call time, it's just how fast the flow moves in different areas. Before there were atoms, planets, or even light, there was just flow, smooth, infinite, waiting for something to happen. And then, tiny ripples formed, like the first disturbances in a still pond. These ripples interacted, merged, and started twisting into tiny whirlpools. These whirlpools weren't particles in the way we think of them. They were the first stable patterns of motion in the flow. That's how the universe was born, not from a big bang, but from a great ripple. Once these flows formed, they followed three simple rules: stability, interaction, and reciprocity. A stable current in a river doesn't stop unless something disturbs it. That's why planets orbit stars and why an object in motion stays in motion. This is RLFlow's version of inertia. Stability and flow patterns is what keeps reality predictable. When two rivers meet, they don't just sit there. They twist, merge, and create something new. That's how forces like gravity and electromagnetism work. It's not invisible magic pulling objects together. It's the natural way flows. Adjust when they meet. Push your hand into water, and the water pushes back. Try to stop a current, and it finds a new way around you. That's why energy is never lost. It's always redistributed, always balanced, always flowing. We think of objects as things, solids, made of smaller solid atoms. But in RLFlow, nothing is truly solid. A baseball isn't a ball of matter. It's a swirling, stable vortex of flow. Just like a whirlpool in a river, it's not a thing. It's a pattern of motion. And time? Time isn't something pulling us forward like a conveyor belt. It's just the speed of the flow around us. In some places, like near a black hole, the flow is so dense it slows down. In other places, like deep space, it speeds up. That's why astronauts age slower than people on Earth. Not because time itself changes, but because the flow around them moves differently. Gravity, in RLFlow, isn't a force. It's a current. Massive objects create whirlpools in the flow, pulling smaller flows toward them. That's why we fall toward Earth, why planets orbit stars, and why galaxies don't just fly apart. And energy? It's not some invisible thing floating around. It's the intensity of the flow itself. High energy areas are like fast-moving rapids, while low energy areas are slow-moving pools. Heat, light, sound, all of it is just different ways the flow moves. If you've ever watched a fast-moving river, you've seen tiny eddies appear and vanish in the currents. That's the quantum world. Particles aren't objects. They're tiny whirlpools of flow that constantly form, shift, and merge. That's why electrons seem to jump between energy levels without moving through space. They're not objects in orbit. They're flow patterns shifting resonance. Superposition? It's just an unstable flow that hasn't settled into a single pattern yet. Entanglement? It's two flows that are locked in a synchronized resonance, so when one shifts, the other instantly follows. Understanding flow isn't just about physics, it's about control. Engineers design rivers and canals to guide water, so why can't we learn to control the flows of reality itself? Energy innovation. What if we could tap into hidden flows of the universe to create limitless energy? Gravity manipulation. If gravity is a flow, could we bend or cancel it, making space travel easier? Extending life. If consciousness is just a stable resonance of flows, could we enhance it or sustain it indefinitely? New technology. What happens when we stop using brute force to manipulate the world and start working with the flows around us? So let me leave you with this. The universe is not a machine. It's not made of tiny building blocks. It's a living, dynamic river, constantly moving, adapting, and evolving. And if we learn to read the currents, to harness the flows, then we may not just understand reality. We may finally become part of it in a way we never imagined. Because once you see the universe as a flow, you'll never see it the same way again.